I yelled to him twice, "Drop your weapon, drop your weapon." And he panically looked at me and raised the weapon towards me.
Tonight, for the first time, the officer who put an end to a deadly shooting rampage is sharing details of that horrible day in Copley Township in August. 7 people were killed, another wounded by gunfire, and the gunman had 200 more rounds of ammunition left when Officer Ben Campbell shot and killed him.
The father of 2 put an end to the tragedy that took the lives of so many innocent people, including 2 teens and an 11-year-old boy. And now News Channel 5's Bob Jones has the exclusive interview for Live on 5. Bob, you were the first Cleveland reporter to talk to Officer Campbell.
That's right, Lee. And the Summit County prosecutor today cleared Officer Campbell of any wrongdoing because obviously the public was in danger and so was his life. Officer Campbell had to put his own fears aside and rely on his instincts and his training.
You know, I felt some fear. I'm a person, I'm not a robot. I felt some fear.
Officer Ben Campbell says what started out as a beautiful day in Copley Township turned into a nightmare. Campbell was the first officer to respond to calls of shots fired around Goodenough Avenue and Shockalog Road. The officer's first hint of horror came from a terrified witness.
He said that a guy had just killed 5 people and that he went northbound. And I asked him for a description. He gave me a great description: tall, dark hair, striped shirt, jeans.
It was Michael Hance, an active shooter in the neighborhood.
At that point, I was just like, you know, this is really happening. It's real.
Campbell, a 20-year veteran, grabbed his rifle, and for nearly 10 minutes, he was the only cop desperately searching for the rampage suspect.
At that point, I felt so vulnerable because I didn't know where he was. I thought he could circle around a house and get me from behind. I mean, it was just a horrible feeling of just vulnerability.
Suddenly, Officer Campbell spotted Hance running across a yard. It was shortly after the gunman had killed his last victim, 11-year-old Scott Dieter.
I yelled to him twice, "Drop your weapon, drop your weapon." And he panically looked at me and raised the weapon towards me.
Hance started running. Campbell fired 3 shots from 60 feet away and hit him twice and tried to talk with Hance before he died.
I said, "Why'd you do this? What are you doing?" You know, I was just trying to get some information from him.
Never responded?
No.
And he died right there?
Yeah.
Hance shot 8 people, killing 7 of them before Officer Campbell put a stop to Copley Township's darkest day.
I feel 100% confident in the decisions I made.
But the married father of 2 does struggle emotionally with the fact that 3 children were among Hance's victims.
It's tough.
And that weighs on you?
Yeah.
While many have praised Campbell for his quick actions under enormous stress, he says he doesn't consider himself a hero.
I'm not a hero, I'm just a policeman. That's how I feel.
And tonight, Campbell's message to all other men and women in blue is clear.
Guys need to realize wherever they work, if you're wearing this uniform, you might get that call one day.
And Officer Ben Campbell was placed on paid administrative leave following the shootings. He tells me that he will return to work here this Saturday and says he is not apprehensive. He says, in fact, he's anxious to get back on the job. A former police officer who happens to live in that neighborhood, Keith Lavery, also fired shots at the suspect that day. Today, the prosecutors also ruled that his actions were justified. Lee?
Bob, you know, I think that we've all been haunted by the events of that day. And even though Officer Campbell, as are all of his fellow officers, they're trained for events like this, it's really touching to see how this has stayed with him.
Yeah, it really is, Lee. You know, you sort of don't think about that. He's a police officer, and he even said a couple of times, I'm a police officer, I'm trained to do this, I've received training, but no one could ever imagine that a situation like this would get so out of control, especially in a small town like this in Copley Township. But yes, emotionally, it is a struggle for him, Lee, because, you know, he knows that several people lost their lives, and including those kids, and as a father himself, that's very difficult.
But potentially so many other lives saved, and while he's very humble, certainly he is a hero in the eyes of many.
I agree.
Bob, thanks so much.